I know it does. I've seen it. That's why the rest of me is just going to enjoy the show, because they only know that I'm the one that beats you. Here's your look at the McFarlane toys. This is the Matrix Series 2, Agent Smith. Collect both the Agent Smith and Neo figures and take their bases to connect together, recreating their final epic battle from the movie The Matrix Revolutions. With filming of a new Matrix film underway, not really sure how they're going to explain it or if they're just going to retcon the whole thing, I thought it'd be a prime time to go back and look at some of these vintage figures produced by McFarlane Toys. Still, I feel these figures hold up well now. Needless to say, though, before we do anything, before we talk more shop about Agent Smith, first thing we're going to do is figure out how tall the figure stands. Now, I am truthfully cheating. No, I'm not cheating with the measurement of this figure, but I'm cheating in the sense that the figure does have a difficulty standing on his own. So I've brought in just a clear stand for the time being. You can see it right there. The figure of Agent Smith stands 6.5 inches in height, and in centimeters, that works out to be a figure that's 16.5 centimeters tall. Of course, to aid with the figure's standing, you can sort of do away with that clear display stand in favor of something a little bit more movie accurate. This is of course, the last final battle between Agent Smith and Neo, and they're fighting kind of on a pavement that's being riddled with rain. They've effectively done this by taking a clear stand, well, not so much clear on the underside, but put a layer of clear plastic on top of it, and then they've textured it so it looks like rain is actually hitting it. It somewhat pulls it off. The coloring that they've sponged on here is sort of more of a greenish yellow, but I guess it sort of mimics the light that's shining on it, as you can see the little pitter-patters of rain hitting the surface. You can see there's also a little clear peg that almost, in a way, gets lost amongst the surface of the plastic. And then you've got this little back area as well, sort of this side curb. The figure, of course, will be standing right there. Right there. On the underside, it's basically just gray plastic. I'm wondering actually why they didn't just use the same clear plastic all the way around, but I guess in a way they wanted to finish the front of it. So again, it wasn't just completely clear plastic all the way down. Still pretty effective for its time period of when this certainly was first released. There's an indentation right here. Sort of you can see there's like a vein work, and it's a different color altogether. This is, of course, the area in which Agent Smith is going to be standing on. It's actually clever the way that they've done it. They've obviously deliberately sculpted this area where it has the least amount of rain. After all, if Agent Smith is standing right there, rain is not going to be hitting the surface underneath him. He's going to be, of course, absorbing all of that himself. Really clever, the way that they've done that. I mean, that would have been just a small touch, easily overlooked by other companies. But again, it's those little touches of detail. I like that. So you can take the figure, do away, like I said, with this clear stand. I just use this for the time being. Just put that over there. And you can take the figure's foot. He does technically have 2 peg holes on the undersides of his feet. So you can decide for yourself which one you want to use. But you just take the figure's foot, obviously, just slide that onto the peg, obviously, and just fit that into place. And you can sort of see what I'm talking about. The rain is obviously pelting him. Rain doesn't make that sound, but it's hitting his suits. And of course, it's not hitting the ground. So I like the fact that they've done that. Of course, this just gives you a finished look, not quite completely finished, because there's going to be a back card that's going to go behind it. But Agent Smith clearly is not so much figure as he's going to be a diorama piece. And he feels somewhat incomplete until you get yourself the Neo, which we'll be looking at in an upcoming video. And that's going to just connect onto here, and then you got yourself a finished presentation. Technically, this is the second time I've picked up this set. Having owned this set the first time it came out, I still remember going to Toys R Us and picking this one up. I sold all of those figures. Regretted it? Well, sadly, lately. And then after the fact, I did, of course, regret it. So I did go on to places like eBay, and I found like the whole wave actually for a decent price at the time it was out. So I still have a lot of these figures now still sealed until, of course, now they see the light of day. Maybe we'll do re-reviews on all of these, or at least the reviews that I didn't do on these. We'll have a look at those. So there's Agent Smith. Like I said, he's completely finished all the way around. And then you'll notice like there's a little back groove that's open on the back there. What that does, or what purpose that serves is, he does come included with this. This is a backdrop featuring many different Agent Smiths. You can sort of see how they've cheated by just simply, obviously they carbon copied him. They would have used actors and then just, of course, changed the heads, or just slicked their hair back and added glasses. From a distance, you wouldn't see it as much. It is a pretty effective looking display. Neo actually has a continuation of this when we all put it together. So basically all you do, you have two sections of the cardboard that stick out slightly further than the rest of it. One here and certainly one there. You'll put them right in these areas, the ones that push in a little bit more so. They fit on one side, and if you could believe it, no, I'm not spinning you a yarn, they do actually fit on the other side as well. Careful though that when you are putting pressure down, you're putting pressure more so on the sides of the cardboard, not on the top. Because if you push it down on the top, you're going to crush, damage the effect, and you're going to lose the overall look of it. And that's what it looks like. That's what it looks like. Again, it feels absent. Obviously, this is a set that needs its other half, the other half that goes over here. Without that other half, it kind of actually looks like Agent Smith is dancing in the rain. It's kind of comical when you think about it. So it does look good, but admittingly so. It's one of those things that does need the other half to pull off the overall effect. Let's go ahead and take Agent Smith off his display stand. I promise it's not going to go very far. It's just going to go over there for the time being. Having a look at the figure itself. Now, I have to, of course, admit, when we look at figures like this, by today's standards, articulation and sculpting would be a lot better than what we were getting back then. That being said, though, it's not a terrible figure when it's all said and done. If you could dismiss the fact that his articulation is almost null and void, it's actually not terrible. It's not really a bad likeness at all of Agent Smith. Again, when you do connect the two together, do you really get more the full effect of what this is supposed to look like? Because again, right now, kind of looks like he's just sort of dancing or firing off an invisible bow and arrow. Looking at the head sculpt, though, you have a very anguished, angry look on Agent Smith. You can really read how angry he is, as well by the fact that he's got these veins jetting out from the sides of his neck. The head sculpt for its time period isn't actually terrible at all. For some strange reason, and I did believe I remember seeing this also on the other one that I had in my collection, he's got real weird random stainings on the sides of his head and as well as on top of his head. It's almost as like if he had hair dye, the dye is bleeding onto the sides of his overall on his forehead. I'm not really sure why specifically they pinpointed those three areas to target with brown paint, but it's there and I don't really know why. You can see he's got his eyebrows, of course, glasses that are not removable. You can't even see his eyes because his glasses are molded right to his face. Teeth are done pretty good when it's all said and done. I do like that there is a separation. Usually when you get grimacing characters where they're showing visible teeth, the teeth are clenched together and you tend not to see a separate between the two. I like that you at least get that here with Agent Smith. A clever thing that they actually have done with the figure, though he is staction again, the way that they've of course posed him, of course, is with the bent arms, the one straight arm, the one straight leg, and then bending the alternate limbs from those. But what's clever, the way that they've done that, if you look at the paint, now of course a lot of this is pulled off by adding this clear coat that they would have put over top of the paint. But what they did do was they very much strategically placed where that wet paint was going to come across, or where the areas on the figure would have been wet. So like why I say that is if you look at his face, it does have that clear coat added to it, adding the sheen that we're just talking about now. He's got it on his hair, for example. But then when you look at his torso here is generally a little bit more dry to the touch. It's more like a semi-gloss or even just a matte coat of black paint. He's also got that also in his legs. But if you look at his arms have more of that. His shoulders have more of that. And he also has it on this side as well. He does also have that same clear coat that's been added to his hair. So really, if you look at the figure, you would imagine if the rain is pitter-pattering, falling down, we've got to use our imagination here, guys. It would be hitting here, it would be hitting here, and it'd be hitting here. Basically, this top half more quickly and more regularly than it would hit the rest of his body. So it would make sense that when they painted the figure, they actually added the semi-coat, the clear coat along this area, and really left the rest of it to just the coloring of his costume. It's kind of clever, really, when you think about it. Between this and the fact that the stand has that noticeable area where he would have been standing, it clearly shows that they were really putting a lot of thought into this when they were producing the figure. As I said, though, he's very limited on articulation. His head rotates back and forth very, very tight on this particular figure. His arms rotate all the way around. I mean, unless you want to do I'm a Little Teapot, you're probably not going to pose him ever in this way. But he does have arm articulation that rotates all the way around. You can rotate this arm all the way around. Yeah, I know. Old McFarlane stuff really was set in the way that you had to pose the figure. You couldn't, even though, I mean, really, they should have just made this figure staction like this. You would have, of course, cried foul that he doesn't have any posability to speak of, but really, what are you going to do with, like, this? What are you going to do with, like, this? You know what I mean? You can only really have it one way, so why not just make him as a statue and call it a statue? Anyways, though, he does have waist articulation, just a straight out waist swivel, nothing overly complicated here. And then he doesn't have any foot articulation. So he's basically just got 2 points, a somewhat tight head, but you really wouldn't be able to rotate that, at least to pull off the full look, even if you could rotate it, which is just really tight on this figure. You're really going to want to have it facing this way anyways. So if you count that, he's got 1, he's got 2, he's got 3, and he's got 4 points of articulation. Pretty dismal, I know. The whole selling point, obviously, is bringing in this. The whole selling point is, of course, attaching Agent Smith to it and having all the many Smiths behind him. And the real sell of this set, obviously, is then therefore the add-on of getting the Neo, where you can connect the two together to get the more epic, grand-looking display. As it stands right now, looking at Agent Smith, if you can overlook the fact that he is pre-posed, he does also feel very incomplete because he really is missing his other half. This set clearly is an add-on. The whole notion of picking up this is knowing that even after you've picked up Agent Smith, your quest isn't over yet, my friends. You're still also going to want to pick up the Agent or the Neo so you can connect the two together to have a much grander looking diorama. Now, this is the second series of the very popular Matrix line of figures from McFarlane Toys. At the time when these were really the big thing, they were next to impossible to find on places like eBay, and usually the Series 1 were the harder to find, more expensive of the figures. But to be fair, though, the twins from Series 2 were also very expensive. I still remember looking at picking up the twins and each one of them being over $100 a piece. That's ridiculous. By today's standards, of course, the market has sort of diminished and the interest level in Matrix figures probably has died down a bit until, of course, the film now pops up in theaters, or the closest thing to theaters if we still have theaters running by then. And people, I'm sure, will then be going to places like eBay to pick these ones up again. The Series 1 had the notable Lobby Neo and Lobby Trinity, some of my favorite figures from both Series 1 and Series 2 of the Matrix line. Those figures, to their credit, work just as well on their own, displayed on their own, as they look good kind of putting side to side. Agent Smith and Neo certainly isn't the case when you look at these figures, because they really do require the other half to be put together. Sure, yes, you could say you could just have Agent Smith displayed on his own, but he's looking up at a big old nothing, because you have nothing there for him to be staring at. If you get just the Neo, well, Neo's looking down at a big nothing. The main point I want to make is the fact that if you don't have the other half, they're just looking aimlessly either at the sky or at the ground, and there's nothing really there for them to focus their vision on. So if you are looking to pick this one up for yourself, or really if you had picked it up back when these were first coming out, you probably were still in the market of picking up the other half of it, completing the diorama the way that McFarlane had planned. This one, despite not having its other half, is a nice rendition of Agent Smith, though the time period, by today's standards, I will admit, this figure may look a little outdated. The sculpt probably could be a little better, and the articulation could be vastly improved. But for its time, it's not a bad looking Agent Smith when it's all said and done. I like the surface that they put for the Diorama Base. Of course, like the back card of having the various different Smiths that you can stare at. And nice little touches to detail. Like, for example, the areas of the water that wouldn't get rained on because Agent Smith is standing there. Areas on his jacket that would be getting a little bit more soaked than other areas have all been painted quite well and sculpted well by McFarlane's team. Yes, indeed, without still having the other half to completing the diorama. It's not really a bad Agent Smith when it's all said and done. Did you manage to pick up this set for yourself? Being this, of course, both the Smith and the Neo. Let me know down below in the comment section. Or based on this review, what do you guys think of the Matrix Series 2 Agent Smith? Yes, he's a little outdated, but still not a bad figure when it's all said and done. If you guys are new to this channel and digging this guy's content, certainly would like to stay on board, hit that subscribe button down below, turn the bell notification on, and keep those peepers peeled of yours, because we are going to be having a look at Neo. Maybe at least in the next review. If not for that, he will be coming soon, so stay tuned for that. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.